All right. Welcome back to Scissors and Scrubs.
Oh, God.
We're deep in the heart of winter, Laura.
Ooh.
Deep in the heart. Of course, we're recording this at the beginning of winter, so I don't really know when this comes out, if we've had snow yet or anything, but
Let's hope not.
it's fucking cold.
It is cold.
This is going to come out sometime in February, right?
Mm-hmm. February 6th, I think.
So we were thinking of different topics to talk about, and we came up with Mount Washington.
Yeah. It's a place.
It's a place, and I think it's like, I don't know, like when you look at like a little baby lion, it looks so cute, looks so tiny. It'll rip your arm off.
Yeah.
That's Mount Washington. People are like, oh, it's in New Hampshire. It's not a big deal. It's a killer.
Yeah. We work with a girl that's from Colorado, and she said something to me like, yeah, but you have like little mountains. I'm like, we have one of the worst mountains in the entire world.
It's number 8 on
like,
the
what are you
10
talking
worst
about? They don't
mountains.
even, it's like a little hill. All these mountains are hills. And I'm like,
Mhm.
go try to get up
climb
top.
it.
You'll die.
Go climb it.
Yeah.
When we start talking about how many people died.
Yeah.
At one point, it was double the amount that died on Everest. Everest has
Oh.
since gone up again,
Mm-hmm.
but the deaths on Mount Washington are longer. So they probably got another 60 years on Everest on how many people have died.
Yeah.
And it shows up as like number 8. It's 2 behind Everest.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a joke. And I think that's the problem with Mount Washington is people
It's
approach
deceiving.
it like, oh, it's a day hike.
Yeah. Right.
I
Just go
learned
for a trip.
quickly
Yeah.
it's not just a day hike. And I learned the hard way with 3 little kids with me in the rain.
Mm-hmm.
The weather changes in the blink of a fucking eye.
Yep.
It gets colder than you like.
It snowed
It
up
can-
there in the summer.
It can be July. You can be at the base. It's 85, and you get to the top. It's 40,
Mm-hmm.
and people hike that in a day and
Yep.
forget how cold it is up there. So we're going to talk about Mount Washington. We're going to talk about its weather. We're going to talk about its landmarks, and we're going to talk about its death toll.
Mm-hmm.
So here we go. Take it away,
Here
Sparkles.
we go. I got my information from New Hampshire Magazine.
Oh, I did too.
New Hampshire Climbing. Amusing Planet. Travel the Food for the Soul. And Wikipedia.
Travel the food for the soul.
Yep. So Mount Washington. Italian explorer Giovanni de Verrazzano was the first European to see Mount Washington from his sailboat in 1524. He was coming up.
His sailboat.
Well, you know.
The Sacco.
I don't know. No, from the Atlantic Ocean. He's sailing up, coming over from Italy. And he's like, oh, I see this big mountain. Like he could see it from the thing. That was the first recorded time someone
That's how
saw.
you could see it from the ocean.
Yeah, apparently. Maybe back then. I don't know.
Yeah,
had a
we know the other
really-
mountains weren't there yet.
Really long telescope.
He's something. Those
Yeah.
Italians are something.
Yep. Of course, Native Americans had lived at the base of the mountain like long before Giovanni ever came into the
Oh,
world.
Giovanni.
They had several different names for the peak, like, God help me with these, Kodak Wadjo, which means hidden top.
Hidden top is perfect because you can never see the
Yeah,
fucking
'cause
top
it's in
of
the
it. It's
cloud.
always in clouds.
Agio Kochuk, which is the place of the spirit, and Wambik, which is White Rocks. They considered the top of the mountain sacred, and that's where gods lived.
Believe it because you never see it.
So they never climbed it. It was sacred
Oh.
ground.
Well,
So,
that was smart.
of course, the European settlers wanted to show what's what to the Native Americans, so they started climbing it.
They all died.
Yeah, Darby Fields was the first recorded climber in 1642. In 1642, in his suit coat and hat, and
He had to be from England, right? With a name like Darby.
I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Mount Washington is the highest peak in the northeastern U.S. and the most prominent mountain east of the Mississippi. The peak is a mere 6,288 feet, so that's like nothing.
It's nothing.
Yet it endures the world's most extreme weather. The weather is comparable to the weather at the top of Mount Everest, which is 29,000.
Isn't that
32
so
feet.
fucking weird?
It's bizarre.
It's the worst weather in the world in this little tiny mountain in New Hampshire.
It's bizarre.
Yep.
And it's comparable to the weather at the South Pole.
Yeah.
Like, this is
Yep.
how extreme the weather is in New Hampshire.
Mhm.
This little mountain in New Hampshire. It's, like I said, it's located in New Hampshire, and it's part of the White Mountain Range.
Mhm.
It's part of the Presidential Mountain Range, which has like 13 mountains that are named after presidents. It's the highest. I think the next one's like Mount Adams.
Mhm.
And then it's also part of the Appalachian Trail. It's in a temperate climate zone, but it has Arctic-like conditions. It has extreme cold, year-round snow, dense fog, heavy icing, and extreme winds. This is due to its location, like geographic location. The peak is in the path of many storm systems, mainly those from the Atlantic to the south, and then the Gulf region and the Pacific Northwest. So everything travels
Merges on top
right
of there.
through this, where the mountains are. The vertical rise of the presidential mountain range, and the fact that it is north to south oriented instead of east to west, so it goes like this.
It's taking a hit.
Yep, it all those westerly winds like
at
slam into it.
Mhm.
But it stops it from coming over to us. Because of the temperature differences between the Northeast and the Atlantic Ocean in the winter, a low pressure system forms along the coastline, which causes ferocious winds. So we are always in like this low pressure system over here.
You know, if you don't live near the ocean, you don't realize the ocean has a huge effect on the weather.
Oh, yeah.
Huge effect on the weather.
Mount Washington held the world record for the fastest wind gust ever recorded on the surface of the Earth for 62 years.
What was it?
The Mount Washington Observatory at the peak of the mountain recorded a gust of at 231 miles per hour.
Holy shit.
On April 12th, 1934. A new record of 253 mile per hour winds was recorded during a typhoon in Australia in 1996. During a typhoon. That's
Right.
the winds that beat it during a typhoon. The peak is blasted by hurricane force winds 110 days per year.
That's a lot. That's half the year.
It's a lot. The Mount Washington Observatory and other structures at the peak are all chained down to the mountain to prevent them from blowing off of it. I didn't know that.
There's a cat that lives in that observatory.
Yeah. Another building, the Tip Top House, was originally built as a hotel. It's located very close to the summit, and its walls are 8 feet thick to try to keep travelers warm inside.
Good luck.
8 feet thick.
Good luck.
Mount Washington has very high levels of precipitation. Mm-hmm. The snowfall occurs all year, averaging 280 inches per year.
Holy shit.
In February of 1969, 49.3 inches of snow fell in 24 hours, which is obviously a record.
That's ridiculous.
49.3 inches.
That's ridiculous.
4 feet of snow in 24 hours. The lowest temp ever recorded at Mount Washington summit is negative 46 degrees Celsius, which means it's like negative 58 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah. Only the South Pole is colder. Only the South
Washington
Pole
in New Hampshire
is colder. On January 16th, 2004, the temp at the summit was negative 42 degrees Celsius. But there were sustained winds of 87.5 miles per hour, resulting in a wind chill of negative 74.77 degrees Celsius, which was a negative 101.2 degrees Fahrenheit. Negative 101 degrees. That's insane. It's like, how does that happen? That's insane.
There was a TikTok where this guy's like, I wonder how cold it has to be for your pee to freeze as you're peeing. Well, I'm going to go with that was probably, it would freeze as it's coming out of your body.
I don't even think it's coming out of you. You're not peeing in that.
Your stream is frozen, yes.
Yeah. Charles Brooks is the man that created the Mount Washington Observatory. It's like scientific studies, like the wind and the weather and all that stuff.
No, there was a gift shop up there.
Yes, there's a gift shop. There's that little hotel. I think there's even like bathrooms. He coined the name Home of the World's Worst Weather, which is still used to describe the weather at the summit. The peak and observatory are very popular tourist spots, despite, or maybe because of the severe weather. The mountain is part of a popular hiking area in the White Mountains. The Appalachian Trail crosses the summit, and that all brings adventurers to the mountain. Mm-hmm. The high winds bring in people who enjoy glider flying because, you know, you're going to fly off the top of that shit in those gliders.
Yeah.
People do that. They're insane.
In 257 miles an hour.
I literally can't. I literally can't.
Slam you so fast into the mountain, you'll disintegrate.
Or just fly off to God knows where.
You end up in fucking Chicago.
Yeah. And the year-round snow brings not only winter skiers, but spring skiers as well, because you can pretty much ski all year. Those spring skiers can be found on Tuckerman's Ravine. Mm-hmm. It's a glacial cirque, which slopes eastward on the southeast face of the mountain. It's a big bowl. It's a giant bowl at the top of the mountain.
Yes. Is it the back side of the mountain it's on?
The southeast face.
It looks like somebody took like a
southeast, so not really the back. It's like, this side. The spring skiers will hike up Tuckerman's Trail to the ravine, to the top of the ravine, and then ski down the bowl.
And they're hiking either with their equipment, like
you have to hike with it,
or like it's ridiculous.
You have to carry it.
Yeah, you have to carry all that shit up, and that trail isn't easy.
No, and this, They can spring ski between April and July.
Yep.
Temps are mild, like it's really warm when you get up there, but the snow is so packed because they get about 55 feet per winter of snow up there, so it's so packed down that even though it's warm, then there's plenty of snow to ski on. And the winds up there are so strong because you're at the top of this mountain that the winds pick up snow from the surrounding like highlands and dump them into the ravine. So you have tons of snow in that ravine. Thousands of people have been known to ski tucks in one spring weekend. Thousands in one spring weekend.
People die too.
Yeah. You can ski in the winter, but the ravine's peak avalanche danger is between December and early March. So it is not advised to ski Tuckerman's Ravine in the winter. It's usually spring skiing that they do. You can. It's very dangerous because avalanches occur all the time. There are several runs that have been cut into the ravine for skiing, and they started doing that in 1933 to like preserve the ravine. They're all as steep as 40 to 55 degrees, which is extremely freaking steep.
You get 90s upright.
Right. It's
That's
like this.
Yeah,
it's steep. It's going into a bowl, and then that bowl just ends, and you go off of the side of a mountain.
And you just go
I've been up. I was little, and I was like, holy shit, these people are just going to ski right down into this, off of it. Like,
clearly, it's not for novice.
No. God, no. I don't think anybody should do it, but the left gully is the easiest run. If you are just brand new to ravine skiing, do the left gully. The chute, as it's called, drops between two huge cliffs that like help narrow the run. So you start it, then you go down in between two huge cliffs, and then it's a very narrow run. The ice fall, which is another run, requires skiers to go off cliffs as tall as 25 feet, and it is 55 degrees vertical.
Nope.
Another run is the lip. That is an open run, but that averages slopes between 50 and 55 degrees. None of them are safe. But the easiest one, left gully.
Right.
It's the right gets worse. They said the left is the easiest. The right gets worse.
You know what, Laura? It's okay. I'm never doing any.
I will never do this.
I'm lucky if I'm ever going to ski again.
I know. I never even heard of this before. They held the 3 American Inferno races on Tuckerman's Ravine in the 1930s. It was a race that ran.
The 30s were a wild fucking time.
Wild. It was a race that ran summit to base, which is 4.2 miles long. The first year, Hollis Phillips won in 14 minutes and 41.3 seconds. From the summit to the base.
Took him 14 minutes?
But if you think about how...
That's a long time, though, to be skiing. 14 minutes.
Oh, yeah. The second year, Dick Durrance won in 12 minutes.
Dick.
Yeah, in 35 seconds. The third year, Tony Matt made a last-minute game change and decides to ski straight down from the summit to the base. Straight down. He was like, you know what? It's really hard to turn on this. I'm just going to go straight. And then again, off the fucking bowl. From the crest, down the full bowl, straight. He won it in 6 minutes, 29.4 seconds.
A lot faster than 15.
He did it 2 times faster than the last guy that won because he went fucking straight down a mountain screaming. And he hit speeds of 85 miles per hour.
Yeah, come on.
On skis.
How is that safe?
On skis. And you know they didn't have helmets in the 1930s.
Shit. They were on those wooden skis that were like strapped on your feet.
They're wearing suits. I'm pretty sure they were still wearing suits at this point.
God. A tweed coat.
Tuckerman's Ravine was named after botanist Edward Tuckerman, who studied alpine plants at the ravine in the 1830s and 40s.
I'm going to do that by retirement, study alpine plants.
Yeah, I'm not going to. Dr. Wischott of Breslau, Germany, was the first to ski on Mount Washington in 1899, and John Apperson was the first to ski Tuckerman's in April 1914. It is a 3.6-mile hike up Tuckerman Ravine Trail. It takes about 6.5 hours, and it is a challenging hike trail. Like they rate them. It is a challenging trail.
There's a lot of rocks and shit you got to get over.
If you go in the winter, you have to take Lionhead Winter Route. You can't go up You can't go up Tuckerman's. My God. You can't go up Tuckerman's Ravine Trail in the winter. That's the spring trail. You have to use the Lionhead Winter Route to go up there in the winter, which is 4.1 miles, 4 hours up and 2.5 down.
I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Visitors I will talk about the Lion's Head Trail in a minute because I'm going to read something that somebody wrote about Visitors who are not as adventurous can use the Mount Washington Auto Route, and you'll see the little sticker on the back of everybody's cars around here.
This car climbed Mount Washington.
And you go all the way up to the summit, though. It's crazy. And then you come back down.
But is that road open in the wintertime?
No, not in the winter. Yeah. No. Or you can take the Cog Railway.
Oh, the Cog.
Sylvester Marsh.
It's going to cost you your firstborn to fucking ride the Cog Railway.
Really?
Oh, it's like $80 a ticket.
Yeah.
It's a ridiculous. I mean, you got a family of 5?
Yeah.
I'm not paying $400 to ride the fucking Cog Railway. Yeah. Sorry.
So Sylvester Marsh bought 17,000 acres on Mount Washington that extended all the way from the base to the summit. And by August 1866, had built a Cog Railway where a steam-driven locomotive climbed all of Mount Washington all the way up to the summit. And it still exists today. You can take your family on it. You see beautiful views.
Say Cog, remember Mr. Cogswell and the Jetsons? It's not a railway like you would think. It actually has a cog that digs into...
Right. It's not like just the wood beams and metal rails.
Right. Because you're climbing a mountain. So it actually climbs into the mountain. I Google it. It's like a wheel that locks into, that turns and brings it up. And you can... It's one of those weird things where you can stand on it and you can go like at a really steep pitch because it's going up so steep.
It's so steep.
That you can,
you're leaned forward.
It's like the big thing to do on the Cog Railway.
Yeah.
Rode it once, don't need to do it again.
Yeah, I never did it. But I did climb to Tuckerman's as a small child.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I took my small children
and I
there.
will never forget seeing these people's heat on this fucking bowl and being like, they're gonna all die. Yeah. They're all gonna die. And I was probably 8.
And they're gonna die in front of my face.
And that's all I could think was these people are gonna die. And I think I had shorts on. Because we didn't know. So I'm gonna read this article about Lionhead Winter Route. It's on NewHampshireClimbing.com just because I think there's probably too much description, but it's like very descriptive. So it's
good to describe because a lot of people die on.
Yeah. So the Lionhead Winter Route is 4.1 miles. It's at an elevation gain of 4,250 feet. It takes, like I said, 4 hours up and 2.5 hours down. And this is the standard route to the summit of Mount Washington in the winter. So you start off at the Pinkham Notch Visitor Center that's where you get to like the Tuckerman's Ravine Trail. That's where you get your main trails up to the summit.
I think it's one of the stops on the Appalachian Trail too.
The Pinkham Notch Visitor? I don't know. I know the Appalachian Trail goes across the summit of Mount Washington. You go to this center, it tells you the avalanche report. It tells you the weather report, which is very important. If the avalanche report says, hey, not a great day, don't go. If the weather report says, hey, not perfect conditions, don't go. You can get a warm breakfast there, like to start your day. There's a changing station, a staging area. There's a bathroom. You can fill your water bottles up.
It's a big place.
It's a preparation. It's to prepare you for this hike. Then you start on the Tuckerman Ravine Trail. That is where you start your trail. And it gradually climbs 1.7 miles. It is not hard. This is a very easy trail to get through in the beginning. It intersects with the Huntington Ravine Fire Road. That takes about 45 minutes to get to this point, this little walk. But if you're not like an experienced climber or walker, it takes like over an hour.
Yeah.
You want to make sure when you get to that Pinkham little area in the very beginning, make sure that Lion's Head Trail is actually open because it is winter and it can be closed. You don't want to start up and then start. They do not open that trail until snow completely covers the ground. So it must be safer to go. So from the winter route, you'll follow the fire road towards the Harvard Cabin. There's like a small wooden rescue cache once you get to the Lionhead Winter Trail. It has like avalanche probes and all this stuff. This is where most parties put on their crampons and get out their ice axes. Like you're not far into this walk and you're already putting on those little things on your boots
on the bottom of your shoes.
That are spiky so you don't fall on the ice. And you get out your ice axes. But there is a spot a few minutes up where you could do that as well. Within a few minutes, the trail rears up and gets extremely steep for a short section. So you put your shit on, and then all of a sudden it's wicked steep.
And this is the easier trail to take to ski Tucks.
No, this is the winter trail.
Okay, gotcha.
Because in the summer, in the winter, you can't go up the Tucks trail. So it's extremely steep for a very short section. There is even a small rock step. This short section is quite easy, but it does require using your hands or axe for a few moves. And there are severe consequences if you slip. This person says, I typically carry a 50-long piece of rope, which I use on this section. After another half hour of steep uphill grinding, the trail emerges from the spruce onto a broad, wide open slope that leads up to the lion head, which is like a rock formation that looks like a lion head. The section from tree line up to the lion head is often icy, and it's here that you'll usually get your first taste of the wind. It can blow pretty hard in this area, but not as hard as it'll be up on the lion head, which is one of the windiest places on the mountain. Just below Lion Head, the trail moves up through a steep, rocky section, which is another spot where you really have to watch your footing. The moves are easy, but the consequences of a fall are serious. On top of Lion Head, you'll get a view down into Tuckerman Ravine, so you're like above Tuckerman Ravine. Yep. And if the weather is good, you'll have an unobstructed view of the summit. There's a flat area on top of Lion Head, and it's a nice place to take a break if the wind is not ripping. But in my experience, it is almost always very windy at this spot in the winter. If it is blowing hard and you need to stop, you can often find shelter below the line. You have to like crawl under the rock. This person says the success of a winter ascent to Tux has to do with wind and visibility. They're saying you should go on the Mount Washington Observatory website. Check the forecast. If it is windy and the visibility is poor, do not try this climb. If you decide to go for the summit in high winds and something goes wrong, you could end up another Mount Washington statistic. Another thing that this person's learned over the years is that Mount Washington is that wind always feels much stronger than it actually is. Typically, if the wind is gusting up to 35 miles an hour, people will think it is 50 to 60 miles per hour.
So imagine what it's like at 50 to 60 miles per hour.
If it's blowing hotter than that, turn around, go back. From the Lion Head, the trail moves along the northern lip of Tuckerman Ravine. I don't want to be on anything called a lip on the top of a mountain. I can tell you that much. Across the Alpine Garden to the base of the summit.
Alpine Garden?
Alpine Garden. But the trail runs right along the lip of the ravine. So you're walking right along the edge of the ravine. Yep. The trail is often bare ice in this area.
I'm good.
And it is possible to slip or have the wind blow you over the edge into Tux.
Why?
Why are we doing this? Another thing to keep in mind as you're moving across this section that is likely to be the windiest section of your climb. On the lip of the fucking ravine.
Can blow you right off.
Yeah. Like try if it gets severely windy, try to find something that you can get under, like an overhang or something. But if you're on the lip, I don't know how you're doing that. In a snowstorm, the little things that there's like markings. All these trails are all marked out, but in a snowstorm, they look like boulders. Mm-hmm. Like they do not look like what they're supposed to be. People have wandered out in whiteouts and cannot find their way back. Your next landmark you're going to find on this hike is Split Rock. It's a truck-sized boulder with a gap in the middle that you can squeeze through.
Oh,
no thanks.
Okay.
This is a spot where you can take a quick rest again, regroup for your final push to the top. Usually only
Why are we still going to the top if I can't see and I'm going to get blown off the fucking mountain?
Usually it will only take about 15 to 20 minutes from the bottom of the end of the Alpine Garden to the Split Rock. Above Split Rock, the trail moves across talus, and if there are no tracks to follow, it can be difficult to keep on the trail. The trail traverses west until intersecting with Davis Path, which comes in from the south.
Davis Path.
This is an easy place to make a wrong turn. Don't make a wrong turn.
Don't make a wrong turn.
After that, the trail makes a hard turn to the right, and then it leads directly uphill, more or less due north. Like you're just walking straight uphill now.
None of this.
In about 30 minutes, you should arrive at the junction with the auto road. In about 30 minutes, you're almost there. Only more 30 minutes straight uphill. So you get to the auto road. I would feel a lot better on the auto road.
I would get blown off the auto road. This chick climbed Mount Washington.
Yeah, as you continue up the auto road towards the summit, you'll be likely walking back into the teeth of the wind. So now you've hit the auto road, you're walking back towards the summit. That wind is hitting you again. You had a little break.
And we talked, 101 with the wind chill?
Well, negative, on the coldest day. But yes, I mean, it's negative. Yeah. But don't worry. You're only a few minutes from the top. You keep walking north. There's a giant wooden staircase up the road, and then cross the tracks, and the summit lies directly behind the biggest building, which is the main visitor center in the summer.
I'm assuming the visitor center is closed in the winter.
I'm assuming. Actually, it's probably open because if you go up there, like to get inside, I bet it's open. I bet there's not people in it, but I bet it's
open so you can go in.
Most people who make it to the summit go back the same way, but there are other ways you can go if you feel like, oh shit, that was hard. But
walking that lip was a little dicey.
But this is not much easier, and it takes about like twice as long to get back down as it would if you just follow that trail. The gear you need to climb Lion's Head Trail: mountaineering boots, lightweight crampons, lightweight 50 to 60 centimeter mountaineering axe, collapsible ski pole, face mask, neck warmer, and balaclava, goggles, 2 pairs of gloves, food, water, and thermos, cell phone, map and compass, and a first aid kit.
If I need a balaclava, goggles, and a helmet to
not
get
happening.
I'm not doing it.
Not happening.
I'm not fucking doing it. Sorry.
That's pretty much
the statistics of
Mount Washington and its little things you're going to hit along the way.
Okay. Well, as I've mentioned a couple of times on this podcast, a couple of years ago, I hiked with my kids. We went camping, and we hiked the Tuckerman Ravine, which is all boulders to the top. So I hiked thinking the weather wasn't coming until 3 o'clock, and we get to a cabin at the, not even, maybe 3/4 of the way. We didn't make it to the top. We get to this cabin, and we figure we'll stop, we'll take a break. And there was a list of all the people that died on Mount Washington. I thought, that's fucking something. And then it proceeded to start to downpour, and we had to hike down these wet rocks in the rain, and we're passing little shelters in case of an avalanche or something. And I was like, wow, this is no fucking joke.
Yeah. So
apparently across from the information desk at the summit of Mount Washington is also a list called the Wall of Fame. It's a list of all the casualties on Mount Washington since 1849, when they began keeping a list. So I'm sure people died before then, but this list only starts from 1849. As I said, Mount Washington ranks number 8 on the world's most dangerous mountains. Up there with fucking K2, Matterhorn, Everest. And Everest isn't number 1.
Is it that one in China?
There's a bunch of them in China. Did you watch that show? And he climbed like 14 peaks. It was one of those. So anyway, it's only number 2 behind Everest, which I thought was pretty crazy because you have all these crazy fucking peaks, and then Mount Washington.
It's so deceiving.
It's so random. Yeah. It is known as having the worst weather in the world, and it's why its death toll is so high. People underestimate how dangerous Mount Washington can be because they think it's just a little rinky-dink 6,000-foot peak in New Hampshire. I got my information from the New Hampshire magazine, and they wrote an article that was published in May of 2019, and it gave statistics. These statistics have gone up since then because there's been more shit.
3 years of deaths.
So,
I think there was 2 within the past month.
Yeah. In December. The last one was December 12th. Yeah. I had to cover that. So there were 44 falls, 33 deaths to hypothermia and the weather, and 23 to heart attacks. Excuse me, because a lot of people, too, again, they think it's a little rinky-dinky hike. They're not really in shape. Let's go for a hike. And they have a fucking heart attack.
Right.
Okay, so this list is maintained not so that they can brag about, we all fucking... They want people to be aware, and they want them to be careful. And they want to know how dangerous the mountain can get at any time. So, I'm going to cover some of the fatalities. Okay, so, we're going to start with the first death to have ever happened on Mount Washington. Okay. That would be Frederick Strickland. And as they say, he owns the grim first. He is the first recorded person to die on Mount Washington in October. You think a nice fall foliage hike, right?
Gorgeous.
October 19th, 1849. Winter-like conditions. He's 29 years old. He did reach the summit, but he was less likely on the return trip. While on the way down, he got lost, eventually meeting his fate in the bed of the Immonosket River in the Immonosket Ravine. So he drowned. Number 2. I'm not going to literally read 159. I'm going through...
There's only 159?
There might be more than that. But I'm not going to read them all because that would be ridiculous.
Yes, no.
I'm just going to cover some of them, but some of them are pretty noteworthy. Let me see. I'm looking at the end here. I have 161, but like I said, the list has gone up since then. Yeah. Lizzie Bourne. She is a 23-year-old woman on September of 8th. So September. Still.
Beautiful. Almost summertime.
Yeah. 1855. She sets off from the Glen House Hotel, and she wants to climb Mount Washington with her uncle and her cousin. She has a heart condition.
Oh, no.
But she's determined to spend the night at the Tip Top House with the 8-foot
Because it was a hotel.
Yep. And to see the sunrise. She's desperate to get up there. Now, it's 1855, Laura, so what do you think she's wearing when she's hiking?
A dress.
She's wearing a fucking dress. She's got a full skirt, petticoat, and pantaloons.
Oh, well, at least she had the pantaloons on.
She has yards and yards of heavy fabric. Yards of it. So despite warnings of bad weather, in late afternoon, they left the halfway house.
Late afternoon?
Mm-hmm. Well, they're halfway up.
Oh,
late
okay.
afternoon. So she's just trying to get to the Tip Top House.
Yeah.
And they leave the house, and they leave the protection of the trees. Because believe it or not, those trees, if you're lost Mount Washington, go for the Alpine Garden.
Mm-hmm.
The winds turned chill and damp, and the clouds obscured the trail, because that's what fucking Mount Washington does.
It gets completely covered.
You can literally sit at the base and watch the clouds whipping over the top of that thing. Now her skirts are soaked. They're heavy.
Ew. She's
faltering. They stop for the night, and they sheltered in a hastily built stone pile on fucking Mount Washington.
That's not good.
Well, she becomes Mount Washington's first female death.
Oh, wow.
She was only a few hundred yards away from the Tip Top House when she died. But you can't see where you're fucking going. So there is a simple monument beside the Cog Railway to commemorate the spot where she died.
Oh,
creepy.
Lovely.
All right,
Did
then
she
you
just
got
die of, like, hypothermia?
I'm assuming wet and windy, and you know, she was a
Hot
delicate
condition.
female.
Yeah.
God bless her heart.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get the Willie Slide tragedy.
Oh,
Willie Slide. This is the death of the Willie family.
Oh, God.
In a mudslide that turned the country's attention to the White Mountains, helping to set stage for the area and Mount Washington to become a tourist attraction.
Mm-hmm.
So the fucking Willies, they have a house at the base of let me start from the beginning.
Okay.
Laura, let me start. It's 1826. The Willie Slide tragedy turned the White Mountains into a tourist attraction. In the decades after the American Revolution, the White Mountains were still a vast, empty wilderness, but we named all of the peaks after the presidents. Nevertheless, this is where Sam Willie decided to settle his family at the base of what is now called Mount Willie. I'm going to give you a wet Willie.
Really?
Yep, Mount Willie. During a violent rainstorm, as my mother would say, a violent rainstorm, and fearing mudslides, this is so sad. The Willie family fled their home because they think it's going to get hit by a mudslide, and they flee to a nearby stone structure that they built just in case a mudslide happened. Well, the mudslide happens, and the place they fled to gets fucking destroyed by the mudslide. Miraculously, the home they built that they should have stayed in was never touched by the mudslide. My poor people, I feel bad. So word spread, and the house began attracting tourists, and soon artists and writers were drawn, as well including Nathaniel Hawthorne, who wrote The Ambitious Guest. He is not known for that. He's known for the fucking Scarlet Letter, when he wrote about a girl who slept with the priest. Yeah. It's a short story about a tragedy. So yes, the poor Willie family builds a house for such a tragedy, goes to the house for such tragedy, and their own house survives.
So that was on Mount Washington.
That was on the base of Mount Washington. So that's what I mean. Like when I was talking about landmarks, they talk about Mount Willie, they talk about Crawford Notch. I don't know if they're talking about that whole area.
Yeah, I think they're talking about the area. Yeah,
but they're including it as part of the Mount Washington deaths. Okay, so now we're going way forward about 100 years to 1982. Joe Lentini's phone rings. 2 people are lost on Mount Washington in dangerous winter conditions. The temperature was around 20 below. This is January of 1982. Winds blowing, visibility is terrible. Lentini's search and rescue teams set out early in the morning to find the 2 men that are missing. They eventually retreated, but returned the next morning. Volunteer Albert Dow and Michael Herrick were searching Odell's Gully, where they found tracks that might have belonged to the missing climbers. As the rest of the team convened at the bottom of the mountain, this is where I ripped the staple out, Dow and Harwich began their descent. And then it was while they're descending, an avalanche sweeps through the mountain. And Dow is killed. He's 28 years old. He's the first and only Mountain Rescue Service volunteer to die during an active mission. In 2018, 36 years later, the Mount Washington Observatory Summit Weather Museum rededicated the extreme weather exhibit in his memory.
That's nice.
The 2 climbers Dow died trying to save Hugh Hare and Jeffrey Batsert were found a day later by an Appalachian Mountain Club employee who was out snowboarding. They were both severely frostbitten and close to death. Hare, who was 17 at the time, so he's hiking fucking Mount Washington in January at 17, he lost both of his legs.
Oh.
Today, he's a professor at MIT.
Wow.
Where he is the head of the bionics lab. So he's probably
cool.
doing all kinds of prosthetics. As a pioneer in prosthetics, he creates limbs for amputees, helping them participate in sports like mountain climbing.
That's awesome.
After Dow's death, the legislature passed a law making Mountain Rescue Service volunteers working under New Hampshire's Fish and Game covered by both life insurance and workers' comp.
Good.
All right, I got another good story. Nope, that's the casualty list. Okay, so we're going to go over a few on the casualty list. We already talked about those 3. There are 4 people who die from slide board accidents. I don't exactly know what that means, but in 1869, J.M. Thomas, who operates the Glen House, he dies drowning. Where's my number 1 guy that did that? Oh, number 1. Private William Seeley, of 29, of Seneca Falls, New York, dies from injuries sustained from a slide board accident on July 3rd, 1873. The slide board
is it like sleds?
But they're on the Cog Railway when they're doing it.
Oh.
So he's one. Then you get Alexander Cusick. He's an employee of the Cog Railway. He's killed August 23rd, 1900, while descending on a slide board.
Oh.
Number 3 is Harry Clausen, age 19, of South Boston, Mass. He's killed August 5th, 1919, descending the Cog Railway on an improvised fucking slide board.
So they must have just been going back down the cog.
On like a piece of wood or something. John Lonigan, age 21, of Boston, killed August 5th, 19... They both killed the same day, descending the Cog Railway on a slide board. So I don't know what the fuck they were doing. Then we're going to go backwards. Age 21, Harry Hunter of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He died December 3rd, 1874, near the foot of the cone of the mountain of exhaustion, on the foot of the cone of the mountain. He dies of exhaustion and exposure during an ascent by the Crawford Path in cold and rain. His remains were found 6 years later. Ewald Weiss, 24, Berlin, Germany, left the Summit House on August 24th, 1891 to walk to Mount Adams. He has never been found.
Oh my God.
Daniel P. Rossiter, a Boston photographer. He's killed July 20th, 1929, when the renovated old engine Pepper Sass is destroyed by the Cog Railway. So he's killed in a train accident on fucking Mount now. Ernest McAdams, age 22, of Stoneham, Mass.
Oh.
He froze to death January 31st, 1932, near the Lizzie Bourne Monument.
Why are you up there in January?
Well, because he's making a winter ascent following the Cog Railway. Why not, right? All right, let's see what else.
Because it's January.
You get these people who think that's the best fucking thing in the world. You got all these... I don't get it. People who wear patchouli oil, they got dreadlocks, they like don't shave and shit.
In 1834.
In 1834. Well, I'm sure there's patchouli oil in 1834. Early hippies. John W. Fowler, age 19, New York City, New York, dies April 1st, 1936. Injuries from a 900-foot slide down the icy cone of the east side of Mount Washington.
Oh, my God.
Yep. Edwin McIntyre Jr., 19, of Scott Hill, New Hampshire, killed June 9th, 1940, by a fall into a crevasse of Tuckerman's Ravine.
No.
I just wanted to say crevasse.
I don't ever want to fall into that crevasse.
There's a couple of crevasses here. John Neal of Springfield, Mass. suffered a fatal injury April 7th, 1943, while skiing the Little Head Wall in Tuckerman's Ravine. No. There's a fuck ton of skiing accidents.
Because you shouldn't be skiing in an ice bowl on the side of a mountain.
It's a fuck ton. This guy, he dies exposure in Tuckerman's Ravine after climbing on a snowstorm on the Lionheads Trail, age 21. That was 1933. He dies. Skiing accident, Tuckerman's Ravine. Skiing accident, Tuckerman's Ravine. Tom Staver died February 5th, 1952 in Boston, Mass. of a fractured skull he suffered during a skiing accident February 2nd, 1952 on the John Sherbird ski trail leading from Tuckerman's Ravine to Pickham Notch.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see who else we got. We have Philip Longernecker, age 25, Toledo, Ohio. He dies in 1954 of suffocating in an avalanche or exposure during a camping trip, Tuckerman's Ravine. Exposure during a camping trip, Tuckerman's Ravine, because you're camping fucking January 31st.
In a ravine.
Let's see. Avalanche in Tuckerman's Ravine. Fall on Mount Clay. Fall and exposure on Mount Madison. Daniel E. Duty, age 31, of North Branford, Connecticut, and Craig W. Merrihew, age 31, of Cambridge, Mass., both killed March 14th, 1965, after falling several hundred feet from Upper Pinnacle Gully in Huntington Ravine. A couple of heart attacks in here, an avalanche, another avalanche.
When I remember being in there, and you could see like you could almost see where an avalanche would stop. Like you could see the line of where it would stop.
Absolutely, and especially in Tux because it's almost inverted.
Oh yeah, but you could see, like that little, that like a little ridge where it starts from, like
all the time, and I just wouldn't think that there, but it happens all the time. There's a couple of plane crashes that happen, so I didn't count them in.
No, those aren't like that.
Scott Stevens, age 19, of Cucamonga, California. Robert Ellenberg, age 19, of New York City, New York, and Charles Yoder, of 24, of Hartford, Connecticut, were all killed January 26, 1969, from a climbing accident in Huntington's Ravine. Who else do we have? Heart attack.
That's like, it literally says December through mid-March. Like, don't go up to...
Yeah, but people don't listen.
That's why most of these things happen, though, I think.
We have Betsy Roberts, age 16, of Newton, Mass. Ooh. She was drowned on August 28th while attempting to cross the dry river during a tropical storm.
Oh, my God.
Why the fuck you would do that, I don't know. Heart attack. Head injuries, falling from Tuckerman's Ravine. Skull fracture, sustained in Tuckerman's Ravine. Heart attack. Head injuries, Hillerman's Highway, in Tuckerman's Ravine. Let's see... Exposure after fall in Huntington's Ravine. Tuckerman's Ravine. Fall into the brook of the Ravine Trail. Tuckerman's Ravine.
You know how cold that water is?
Oh, it's. I mean, I should have sat down and said how many people die in Tuckerman's Ravine.
It's the worst.
1980, you got Peter Friedman, of 18, of Thompson, Connecticut. December 31st, 1980, fall in the Odell Gully while ice climbing in Huntington's Ravine. Kathy Heyman, 25, Sandy Nook, Connecticut, died March 28th, 1982, of head injuries sustained in a fall while climbing in Connection Gully in Tuckerman's Ravine. Marjorie Frank, 25, Randall, Mass., committed suicide by asphyxiation in the Valley Way Trail on the way to Mount Madison on July 21st, 1985. Her remains were found 9 years later.
What?
Yep.
How is that even possible?
Somebody dies from a stroke hiking Tuckerman's Ravine.
Yeah, that'll do
I
it.
almost had a fucking stroke
I know.
hiking Tuckerman's Ravine.
I was like 8 and I was almost having a stroke.
Let's see. Kenneth Heckerson, 23, 1983, sliding fall on the Icy Summit Cone. Another guy, sliding fall, Icy Summit Cone.
No, can you
3
imagine
days
just
later.
being up there?
I can't. I mean, then these people, like, they're not that far from each other. Thomas Smith, 41, Montpelier, Vermont, died February 24th, 1991, of injuries sustained from a 2,000-foot fall and an avalanche at the top of Odell's Gully while climbing ice in Huntington's Ravine.
No. 2,000 feet.
2,000
I hope he died immediately.
I always think of that guy when we covered Yosemite. Remember he was on there?
Yeah.
It was like 3,000 feet.
Yeah.
I can't fucking
I hope you just die immediately.
You do, but the whole way down, you know.
No, I mean,
coming.
I hope you don't know the whole way down.
Cheryl Weingarten, age 21, Hewlett, New York, died May 1st, 1994, of injuries sustained in a fall into a snow crevasse on Tuckerman's Ravine. Boom.
Listen, it's beautiful up there, right? Like,
just look at it from afar.
You can see like 5 different states and Canada from the top.
Go to Wildcat, sit at the fucking lodge, look at Tuckerman's Ravine.
Yeah.
You don't need to ski.
No, don't go up there. Don't climb it. It's very
Alessandra
dangerous.
Cassan, age 19, Bencancourt, Quebec, Canada. Nope, QC, Canada. She died in January 5th, 1996 from being swept into trees by an avalanche on the abandoned Old Lion Head winter route. Oosh. I can't even tell you how many people I'm skipping. A Boy Scout leader dies from a sudden cardiac arrest on July 22nd, 2002. I got married 2 days before. 200 feet up from the start of the Crawford Path.
Oh, he just was there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Rob Douglas, age 39, of Hampshire, Vermont, died March 7th, 2004. From a fall in Pipeline Gully on Mount Clay. He fell while attempting to descend an icy ski gully to help a fellow skier who was injured in a fall down the same gully. Christopher Bally, of 24, of Forked River, New Jersey, fell to his death when he went off the trail to the top of a waterfall and slipped on rocks on the Tuckerman Ravine headwall.
No.
July 18th, 2010.
No.
The last... Let's see, we're getting near the end here. I've skipped quite a few honorable mentions. Francis Carey, age 47, of Drummondville, Quebec, was last seen walking on the auto road on May 9th, 2016, and was reported missing on May 12th. His body was found off of the Lion's Head Trail near the Alpine Garden Trail by two passing hikers on March 28th, 2016.
Oh, so he must have been on that auto trail, just that little path that you walk on for that Lion's Head Trail.
Cause of death? Hypothermia.
In July.
Yeah. That's the fucking point.
Right.
In July.
Yeah.
Nicholas Benedy, age 32, of Campton, New Hampshire, died on April 11th, 2019. As a result from trauma in an avalanche in the Raymond's Cataract area northeast of Tuckerman's Ravine.
Mm-hmm.
He was skiing alone when he was buried under 1 meter deep for an hour and a half to 2 hours before he was dug out. Cardiac arrest followed by CPR was administered before Bennett died. So this is 2019.
Yeah.
Okay. In this year alone, there has already been, and at the end of 2022, there's already been 3 deaths in Mount Washington. The last one recorded so far, and there may have been one since, but right now, the last one was December 10th, 2022. 46-year-old Joe Eggy Eagleston. He was climbing to the top with his wife, Kelly. He had worked for the Cog Railroad for 30 years.
Wow.
So he must have been very young when he started working for the Cog Railroad. He and his wife were taking pics in Crawford Notch when his wife heard him yell. By the time she turned around, he's MIA. He had fallen 300 feet from the summit and was pronounced dead on scene.
Oh, yeah.
That was 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. That's
how deadly Mount Washington is.
Yes.
So, be careful. Stay off there in the wintertime.
Absolutely. Do not go in the winter.
And don't ever for 1 second underestimate Mount Washington. You want to climb that in June, July, pack winter gear. Because you could get to the top.
Don't be like, oh, hey, kids, this is going to be a fun trip.
Right.
You need to know what you're doing and be able to get yourself and your family out of a situation.
And the terrain isn't as easy as you think it's going to be. Yeah, it may only be 6,000 feet. It's a fucking hard 6,000 feet. Don't be stupid. Be careful. I mean, I've always said I would like to do it. At my age now, I'm not fucking doing it. I'll take the auto road.
Yeah.
Boop, 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 putt to the top. Maybe the Cog Railroad if I fucking hit the lottery.
I did it. I'm good.
I've done it. I mean, is it beautiful? Absolutely. Yeah. Is it cool to kind of be up there and you see the observatory? Because if you, every winter in New England, there's always a picture of the observatory with the numbnuts who work there getting blown across the ice. Yeah. And when I tell you frozen, it looks like the South Pole, the pole up there. And it's very, like, whenever we go up to New Hampshire, we're always in the White Mountains poking around. And we'll look and we'll be like, oh, can you see the top of Mount Washington today? I don't know. Because it's always covered in clouds. Yeah. And they are fucking whipping over the top of that mountain. It's crazy.
It's crazy.
So yes, we may not have the highest mountains in the world. The fucking one of the badass mountains in the world, all right?
So it's a little teeny tiny.
It may be tiny, but it's badass. That's a Boston fucking mountain for you right there. Okay, so enjoy your winter. Be careful. We got some fun episodes coming and going. And again, send us your what am I trying to say?
Emails?
Send us your emails. Send us your ideas. Love to have some ideas. We're always looking for new and exciting things to bring to you guys.
Yeah, or to learn about. Just
to learn about. Yeah. I need some tragedies. I need a good Donna Party tragedy.
Jesus Christ.
You know how I like my Katrina, Donna Party, Coconut Grove.
This wasn't
Rhode
enough
Island Fire.
Yeah, no.
This isn't enough for me. This wasn't a lot of meat and potatoes. This is like people just being stupid.
I mean, not necessarily. They're like skiers and hikers.
But why are you doing that? And like, go to a ski resort.
I know.
Groom trails, lifts, help, ski patrol. Why are you going to fucking Tuckerman?
You
got to hike your ass up there with all your shit.
Why did my mother bring me as a small child? I don't know.
I don't want to do, but I don't want to hike with my shit on my back. I don't want to do that.
No. I don't even want to go to the chairlift, to be honest.
I just want to sit in the lodge now near the fire.
Yeah.
And relax. Yeah. Have a few drinks.
That's all I want to do.
Anyway, I digress.
Yeah.
So, we will see you guys soon.
Yep.
Enjoy your winter, and let's pray for warm weather coming soon.
Please.
Bye.
Bye.
Like, subscribe, rate, and review the Scissors and Scrubs podcast on whatever podcast app you listen to us on. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Scissors and Scrubs. And email us any of your stories or thoughts to scissorsnscrubs@gmail.com.